Hello again. We're almost halfway through the Six Nations. It's absolutely flying in, especially without that double rest week in between. It's another massive game for Ireland this week, and it's another game that Ireland are really going in as underdogs. Ireland travelled to England's capital this morning ahead of their clash with England at the Allianz Stadium on Saturday, the 21st of February at 2:10 p.m. Andy Farrell named his side earlier today, and it is as follows: Jamie Osborne, Robert Balakoon, Gary Ringrose, Stuart McCluskey, James Lowe, Jack Crowley, Jamison Gibson Park, Jeremy Lockman, Dan Sheehan, Tig Furlong, Joe McCarthy, James Ryan, Tig Byrne, Josh van der Fleer, and Caelan Doris as captain. The replacements are Ronan Kelleher, Tom O'Toole, Finlay Bealham, Nick Timoney, Jack Conan, Craig Casey, Kieran Frawley, and Tommy O'Brien. So that's 5 changes from the side that faced Italy last weekend. Kieran Frawley, he's back for potentially his first Six Nations cap since 2024 off the bench. I probably mentioned before that I'm a really big fan of his, and I hope he has a really good showing at the weekend. Tig Furlong is back with a start after returning from that calf injury. He had come off the bench against Italy last week. Also, Josh van der Fleer, he returns to the squad after missing out that Italy game entirely. Robert Balakoon, he retains a spot on the wing with Tommy O'Brien on the bench. And maybe Ronan Kelleher will feel a bit unlucky not to start. I thought he played really well when he came on. Probably the biggest talking point about selection is the complete dropping of Sam Prendergast. He said, though, that he'd had some productive chats with Sam. He said Sam's a fantastic international player. He's on a journey. So he's clearly hoping that he would kick on down the line after a poor performance against Italy.
I think the two lads probably came in to camp. I think they've probably been in better form. I'm not saying they weren't they were in bad form, better form, but you see during training which way that you're going to go through performance, etc., and you back what you see and all of that. And I suppose sometimes you see people come from the back and have nothing to lose and get over themselves and just rip in. And we've not just seen that with Jack, but we've seen that with somebody as experienced as, say, James Ryan. Not selected to start in the first game, came on against France and had a storming game and has continued that.
Again, I know everyone has an opinion on this topic. Mine has always been, it's not necessarily about comparing like for like with the 4 potential options at the moment with fly half. I think all 4 lads, so Crowley, Prendergast, Frawley and Byrne, they all offer something really different. Again, I looked at the statistics and again, they were all really strong in certain areas, had their certain weaknesses too. Also, I think it's really harsh to compare them, and they're all still pretty young. I think Frawley and Harry Byrne, they might be the oldest. I think they're about 26, 27, 28. Sam is the youngest at 23. So I think they all have room to grow in that position. Certainly someone like Frawley, who hasn't had the game time, hopefully he'll see more at Connacht. Stuart Lancaster confirmed that he was coming as a fly half, so hopefully he will get more game time there. I think a lot of people have kind of written off Sam Prendergast, but I was listening to Dave Kilcoyne on the What the Work podcast, and he was talking about how Sam Prendergast had come in on an under-20 side to face the Ireland squad, and they do these training sessions where they face off against each other, and he just said how they were all like, wow, this guy is super talented. Like, he was doing crazy things in that match against, probably what was Ireland's like starting 23. So maybe like James Lowe and James Ryan, he needs that bit of time to kind of step away from the team and come back stronger. Andy Farrell kept mentioning over the last couple of press conferences about players getting over themselves. So I kind of think he would benefit from a bit of time away from all that noise, all that kind of negativity, to get a bit of confidence back, whether that be at Leinster or maybe off the bench in another game down the line. Also, another thing that they pointed out on that What the Ruck podcast, that Ireland needs that competition. Again, Johnny Sexton even said it in his interview this week, how Ireland were too reliant on just one person in certain roles, particularly in his role as fly half.
I suppose there's four guys, and I suppose all the criticism for previous cycles, World Cup cycles, was that we didn't develop guys, you know what I mean? And we didn't. We relied too heavily on one in some positions. So we're doing it a different way now, and whether that's right or wrong, you know, everyone judges it a lot of the time by the outcome. But I know that in you know, games to come, they're going to hit their best form, and they'll be in a good place.
And yeah, I think Andy Farrell has given these couple of players some space, and we're looking at it from wanting them to be the finished product. Because I was just thinking back, looking at Johnny Sexton, he only got his first cap at 24 in 2009, that Fiji game in the Autumn Internationals. And then I think him going up with Ronan O'Gara probably gave Ronan O'Gara a few more years at the top as well, kind of having Johnny chasing at his tails. So I do think as commentators, as fans, I do think we need to temper our expectation for where these players are at the moment. I'm old enough to remember a time when with Johnny Sexton and Ronan O'Gara, Johnny Sexton would be coming on and you'd hear people griping and moaning that he was coming on like, oh no, Johnny Sexton. But looking at the past 2 years, you can see the absence of him, like what a great player he was. Also, looking at England, they went through a similar thing with Marcus Smith and George Ford, also kind of Finn Smith coming through. Again, they're all very different players and what they can offer, but it seems that George Ford has really taken control of that 10 jersey. It could be he's a bit more experienced, he's a bit more older, he's kind of found himself. Also, he plays really well into the style that Steve Borthwick wants to play. Bernard Jackman on RT's Rugby podcast, he really praised like he has that brain and that rugby nous, something that I think maybe Kieran Frawley has. And he was saying that he was like perfect for that Borthwick ball vision, the style of England want to play. Which leads to the England team to face Ireland. This team has been out for a few days now, and it is as follows: Freddie Stewart, Tommy Freeman, Ollie Lawrence, Fraser Dingwall, Harry Arundel, George Ford, Alex Mitchell, Ellis Genge, Luke Cowan-Dickey, Joe Hayes, Mario Itoje, who's captain, Ollie Chesham, Tom Curry, Ben Earl, and Henry Pollock. And then the replacements are Jamie George, Bevan Rodd, Trevor Davison, Alex Coles, Guy Pepper, Sam Underhill, Jack von Portfleet, Marcus Smith. Captain Maro Itoje is set to make his 100th appearance for England. Also, Flower and Lightning Rod, as he's been nicknamed, Henry Pollock, is set to make his first start for England. Try scorer Henry Arundel, he was free for selection early on in the week after picking up those 2 yellow cards and then red against Scotland in that loss. Ollie Lawrence also returns to the squad after missing the Scotland match. That now means that Tommy Freeman moves to the right wing from centre, replacing Tom Roebuck, who struggled in the air last week. Again, shifting Freeman to the wing, it really points that England want to target those aerial challenges up against another big man, Robert Balogun. He did well in the air for Ireland against Italy. Arundel, while he's a try scorer, a bit of a flyer, he's a bit weaker in the air. Also, Lawrence coming back in, he's a powerful option as a ball carrier. He's back after a knee issue. So England definitely will be targeting that power game, and they have the power and the heft to bully Ireland. So it's probably why Farrell has gone back to some of his most trusted players, some of maybe more experienced players. He's backing the likes of McCarthy, Ryan, Josh van der Fleer, particularly Josh having been dropped, coming back into the squad. McCluskey again, he was probably the first name on everyone's team sheet. He's playing so well. He's really powerful in the centre. I think he's Ireland's top carrier. However, it's a little bit surprising that Farrell went for that 5-3 split. England have that 6-2 split off the bench, but Ireland have gone with 3 backs. So We know Tommy O'Brien can be very attritional, but maybe I think Edwin Adogbo will probably feel a little hard done by, given how much he stored up that scrum when he came on. Obviously, England are going to put on pressure there. Talk about their statistics a little later on. As Dave Kilcoyne again. Also on Dave Kilcoyne, Andy Farrelly, when at his book launch, he was asked which player he would love to have back in camp just for like the crack and fun, and he said Dave Kilcoyne. So I say the man is a bit of a laugh, but he knows the scrummage, and obviously he said on the Rot the Ruck podcast about how having a good bit of weight behind you in the scrum really makes a difference. So it's a bit surprising that Andy Farrell didn't opt for another forward on that bench, particularly with England's strong scrum. Just another note on Edwin Adogbo. Obviously made his debut against Italy. There's a lovely video of him being presented with his jersey by Craig Casey, and it's on the Irish Rugby YouTube channel. I'll link it below. It's really nice.
Edwin's fine. He's strong. He's been brought up in the right way. We met his family last week. His mother and his two brothers and his sister. His father couldn't make it because he works all hours God sends as far as A&E nurse there down in Cork, which says it all. So he's made of the right stuff, and that's why he's able to just crack on and ignore all the BS.
So looking at that scrum, so against Italy, Ireland's scrum was at 83% success rate compared to England's in that game against Scotland, which was at 100%. But saying that, even England, I think they were 100% in the line out and the scrum, Scotland still found a way to get around them. And then looking at the line out success so far in the entire championship, Ireland is currently on 92.6% success rate in the line out. England slightly higher on 97.1%. So the set piece, particularly the scrum, is definitely something that is going to be targeted by England. Particularly we've seen how much damage the Italians did. We've seen the pictures of Tyg Furlan going flying in the air. So it'll be interesting to see. Jeremy Loughman's back in. We also have Tyg Furlan back in. Finlay Beanham again. Great experience to have off the bench. Also Tom O'Toole, he did really well at locking out that scrum when he came on. So it'll be interesting to see how that scrum goes for Ireland. I think, again, some missing players, but I think in the long run, it's great experience for some of these players like Jeremy Loughman, Tom O'Toole, etc. Andy Farrell has shown a bit more ruthlessness, I think, with his selections in this championship. Maybe it has to be because of the 3 games on the bounce. He did mention in the press conference today, like a lot of selections were about finding balance, also a bit of freshness, because usually in tournaments past, they played those 2 games and have a break. But this year, it's not like that. So playing those 3 games, it's kind of like almost like a World Cup scenario in that sense. So maybe part of it is a sense of ruthlessness, maybe, and we've seen it's worked. Like if you look at James, though, he had like one of his best games for Ireland after being dropped. So maybe it's a bit of both. There's a bit of freshness, bit of seeing where lads are at, because he actually name dropped a few players. Like he talked about James Ryan. He said about him coming back better after being on the bench, not being selected. But it really does seem like this week he's gone back to the drawing board in terms of his more experienced players, and he's really calling on them to put on a performance against England away from home in the cauldron that is Twickenham.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously with the squad that we've got, we've been trying to give chance to grow the squad, obviously with giving people different experiences in Paris or even last week, etc., with Edwin, etc. But I suppose as a group, Game 3, Twickenham is trying to learn from Paris, the experience of that, and learn from past experiences from Twickenham as well. You know, we've won pretty important games there. We've also lost there a few times recently. Pretty similar story to a couple of years ago, isn't it? Coming on the back of Scotland beating England and England being told that they had to have a reaction, and they did, and played some great rugby and won on the bell there. So, having lads within the group who have been there and felt that, and how they can portray that experience down to somebody like a Robert Balakoon, etc., is pretty important.
Actually, looking back at the past performances of Ireland at Twickenham, out of the last 5 visits to Twickenham, or the Allianz Stadium as it's known now, Ireland have won just once since 2022. However, looking at it as a whole, Ireland has won 4 of the last 5 meetings between England and Ireland, both home and away. So 3 wins at the Aviva, and then 1 win at Twickenham, and then 1 loss at Twickenham, the Allianz. Obviously, Scotland spoiled the party and halted England's 12-match winning run last weekend with that 20-31 win in Edinburgh. The last team to defeat England before that had been Ireland in last year's Six Nations. However, England's last home loss at the Allianz was in November 2024 to South Africa. They lost that game in the Autumn Nation Series 2029. Then looking at Ireland, Ireland's last away win was back in July 2025 against Portugal. That record 106-7 win. Looking at where both teams are at in the table, England sit in 3rd place with 5 points. So they have no points from that loss to Scotland, and they have 4 points and the try bonus points from their thumping of Wales in the first round, that 48-7 win. England are ranked 2nd in the Six Nations for points, so 68 points, and tries scored with 9 this season. Ireland currently sit in last place with just 4 points from that 2013 win over Italy at the weekend. Also, a lot has been made of missing players, so I just looked at Ireland's matchday squad against England last year compared to this one, and only 12 of that matchday squad from last year's meeting have been named today. So they're missing the likes of Matt Hansen, Bundyaki, Andrew Porter, Ryan Baird, Robbie Henshaw, and retirees Cian Healy. Cian Healy was actually in with the Ireland team last week. I think it was a bit of a catch up and a bit of a brain pick from the forwards with him. Also, Virgin Media's Conor Murray, he was named in that squad. For England, only 11 remain from their defeat to Ireland last year at the Aviva. So looking at some of the stats for the players, George Ford and Henry Arundel, they're 2nd and 3rd for points scored respectively. George Ford with 21 points for 3 penalties and 6 conversions. Then Arundel with 20 points from the 4 tries they scored, 3 against Wales and 1 against Scotland. Then looking at kick success, George Ford is currently 4th in terms of kick success on 81.8 behind Finn Russell, Thomas Ramos and Paolo Garbisi. Then looking at some of the Ireland players' stats that stand out, Stuart McCloskey, he's been Ireland's standout player so far this championship. He currently ranks 2nd with try assist 3 so far, while Jamie Osborne has been the only player to record a 50-22 kick this season. Again, Stuart McCluskey, he's been Ireland's top carrier with 27 carries, while Ben Earl and George Ford sit in 1st and 4th respectively with 41 and 31 carries each. Then looking at James Lowe, I thought he had a really good performance at the weekend. He made the most metres for Ireland with 138, and he's just above Ben Earl and Tommy Freeman with 137 and 135 respectively. So I think there's a few decent matchups with the players there. I think obviously Ireland might struggle with just the physicality of the English. But I think if Ireland can start strong, maybe win some of those aerial battles. Again, as I said, Robert Balakoon, he's a big guy. He's really physical. He's really fast as well. Also, again, with Ireland's attack, I don't think we've seen a lot of it come off. But looking at that Robert Balakoon try, it really shows that there's potential there. So I think if Ireland can play a bit clever, get people like Robert Balakoon, Jamie Osborne going, I thought he had a really good game as well, get James Lowe taken along, and potentially someone like Tommy O'Brien coming on, Kieran Farley as well, good playmakers. You know, there's hope there for Ireland, but I do think England, it's going to be some challenge. I think they're going to be smart, and after last week, they were really confident. They were, playing up that kind of Grand Slam possibility, and that door is being closed. And particularly the way it was closed by Scotland, going down 17-0. I think they will be coming out with a lot to prove this weekend. Also, it's 100 caps for Mara Itoje. It's going to be a big day for the team. So in my heart, I'd love to say Ireland, but I think the head is saying England. I just think they have just too much. I think also the Scotland game, I think it's a bit of a blip. We always have Six Nations upsets, particularly England and Scotland. It's always, I think Scotland really, like Ireland, get up for that game, especially at home in Murrayfield. But I do think, obviously we see from the 12-game run that England we're hitting a bit of a form. They've really good younger players, really good athletes. So yeah, I think they may have too much for Ireland, who are kind of lacking in that confidence, maybe lacking in certain positions, people missing that experience. But hopefully Ireland can go over and do a number on them. And if you want to watch the game, it's going to be on RT2 from 1 p.m. So it's going to be on UTV, on ITV from 1 p.m. also. Or if you can't get to a TV or your laptop or your phone, it's going to be on the radio too. It's going to be on RT Radio 1 from 2 p.m. on Saturday Sport, also on BBC Radio 5 Live. I know it's a few days out, but just looking at the weather forecast so far, pretty much going to be looking pretty gloomy, cloudy, pretty windy, a gust I think of 52 kilometers per hour, 16 degrees. So it won't be cold, but it might be pretty miserable and dark and cloudy, but pretty decent playing conditions overall. Then I just looked at the odds. I think that can give a really good insight. Obviously, I think the algorithms and the permutations that the bookies use often are right on the money in terms of predictions. So looking at the odds so far at the time of recording, England are clear favourites, with a lot of places are offering 1-6, 1-4 on an England win. And then for Ireland at the time of recording, they're between, probably most of them were like 4-1 for an Ireland win. Then looking at the other fixtures of the weekend, so on Saturday also, Wales play Scotland in Cardiff at 4:40 p.m. That's on Virgin Media 1 at 4:15, and also on BBC as well. I think this is another hard game for Wales, especially coming off that France thumping last weekend to kind of get up against Scotland. Scotland obviously will be coming in with a lot of confidence after beating England. And then the other game, which I'm actually really looking forward to see how it goes, that's on Saturday, the 22nd of February. France face Italy in Paris, 3:10 p.m. It's on from 2:30 on RT2 and 2:20 on UTV and ITV. I just really hope that Italy can put on a decent performance against France. I can't see them winning it. I think France are just too good. I think they're just in like peak form at the moment, but I would love to see Italy really put up a fight, put up a bit of challenge, because I think they've been playing so well, and I think it's really good for the Six Nations where they are and the confidence. And even Michele Lamaro was talking about like the confidence that they have, that they never thought they would be winning these games or even like having a shot at the competition. And you know, players coming through and how it's inspiring young Italian players. I just think it's brilliant. So I really hope that it's a decent game on Sunday. I'll be definitely tuning in, cheering on Italy. I'm not being bitter. France is just, I just really loving Italy at the moment and how they spoke after the game as well. They just seemed like a really great bunch. So I will be cheering on Italy at the weekend. So as I said, we're nearly halfway through the Six Nations. It's really flew in. It's another big week ahead of the rest week next week. So what are your predictions for Ireland versus England, and what game are you looking forward to most? Is it Ireland versus England? Is it the France game? Is it that clash between Wales and Scotland maybe? Comment below, and please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye now.